Marvel Rivals is just around the corner before its public release on December 6th as a new third-person hero class shooter, and one thing that remains clear in this genre is that tanks are the titans of the battlefield. And when you're diving into Marvel Rivals, these heroes called Vanguards bring the strength and strategy to lead their team to victory. But do you know how many of these iconic tanks share similarities with the Overwatch tanks? Let's explore to see how these heroes compare. So far heading into release, there are 8 tanks ready to play, starting off with Captain America. Now Captain America is a unique mix between Reinhardt, Junker Queen with some bit of a Doomfist in there. Like Reinhardt, Cap's melee attacks also deal a moderate amount of damage. He also has a mobile shield, much smaller though compared to Reinhardt's size, but he likes to compensate the size for the ability to deflect projectiles. Both heroes can launch projectiles. Cap throws his shield while Reinhardt does his fire strike. With Doomfist, Cap also has a small knockback ability to keep enemies at bay while protecting his allies, and can ground slam while in the air. But as previously mentioned, there is also a bit of Junker Queen in Cap. Cap, using his abilities, can rally his team to boost their stats, much like Junker Queen's commanding shout, along with both of them having throwable weapons they can recall. Up next, we have Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange brings the mystic arts to the front lines, drawing comparisons to Reinhardt and Sigma. Similar to Reinhardt, Strange's massive mobile shield is perfect for leading a push while protecting allies, but one difference that gives Strange the advantage between the two are his ranged attacks that come with a twist, since using too much of his magic corrupts him to the point where he must dispel it before getting a penalty where he cannot be healed. Upon dispelling all those stacks of dark magic, he unleashes a shockwave, dealing damage to nearby enemies. Now both Strange and Reinhardt have an ultimate that stuns multiple enemies in a single move. While Reinhardt's is more of a frontal cone attack, Strange's is a circle attack around him, stunning all nearby enemies. Meanwhile, Strange's ranged magic attacks and ability to float align him close with Sigma's hyperspheres and hovering movements while performing his ultimate. Together, these abilities prove that mastery of defense and precision can offer keys to controlling a good fight. And up next, we have Groot. Now, Groot is a natural guardian, much like Hazard, Rizza, and Zarya. Groot and Overwatch's new tank hero Hazard both deploy mini-walls to block enemy movement and vision, creating obstacles that disrupt the enemy team's plans. Although he doesn't have the same mobility or defenses as Hazard, Groot's playstyle kinda mirrors Orissa's, as both excel at controlling the pace of the game with strategic placements and timing, since Groot can place walls to stop enemies and launch range attacks that disrupt their movement. Finally, Groot's ultimate, which pulls enemies to a central point with his vines, directly parallels Zarya's gravitation surge, making him a master of crowd control and setting up game-changing plays that could turn the tide to your favor. Coming up next, we have the Incredible Hulk. Now, Hulk channels raw powers in ways that feel familiar to Zarya, D.Va, and Winston. Hulk and Zarya both transfer shields to nearby allies, reinforcing their team's survival. Like D.Va, Hulk goes through multiple phases with new abilities, evolving into increasingly powerful forms. But his playstyle that he closely aligns with is Winston's. Both have short leap cooldowns for mobility and rage-style ultimates that grant bonus health and massive damage, making them terrifying foes in close combat. In his first form, he deals melee damage and gains 4 new abilities. One is his Thunderclap that deals frontal cone damage. His second is a ranged stun attack that locks down any enemies. His third is a Gamma Shield which can absorb energy and convert that energy into charging his second ultimate form called Monster Hulk. His fourth is a passive where he can charge his leap much like Winston's leap, and during this he can knock down any flying enemies. Then when he goes into Monster Hulk form, he deals even more damage with each attack, slightly knocking back enemies, along with his original Hulk abilities. But his last ultimate grabs a single enemy and swings them around, ground pounding them Loki style. Up next is Magneto. In Marvel Rivals, Magneto uses his mastery of magnetism to disrupt and empower, making him akin to Sigma and Zarya. Magneto and Sigma share similar high damage auto attacks with the ability to absorb or block any incoming damage with their abilities. Much like Sigma, Magneto forms a magnetic shield that can absorb any amount of damage for a few seconds before deactivating and transferring all that energy into ranged attacks that can knock back enemies. Magneto also empowers himself by shielding allies, much like Zarya's particle barriers, which allows them to soak up damage and amplify their own firepower. For his ultimate, Magneto draws in any incoming projectiles and forges a massive meteor he can launch back at enemies, dealing massive damage upon collision. These are perfect examples of how defense can seemingly transition into offense. Up next, Peni Parker. Peni Parker combines creativity with offensive power, similar to Roadhog and Junker Queen. Like Roadhog, Peni can deploy traps to mobilize enemies with her spider nest and cyber mines, and she also has the ability to heal herself with them during the fight. Meanwhile, her ultimate, a charge that knocks enemies aside, is reminiscent of Junker Queen's ultimate commanding charge. She also has the ability to run up walls, buildings, making her mobility on par with Hulk's. These kinds of heroes thrive in chaotic skirmishes and creating opportunities for their team to capitalize on the enemy's mistakes. Coming up next, we have Mighty Thor. Now, Thor harnesses his divine power, making up a mix of Doomfist and Ramatra. Thor's charged attack and knockback abilities echo Doomfist's seismic slams and rocket punch. Both heroes also heal by dealing damage with their abilities, ensuring they remain in the fight. For Thor, he also summons nearby lightning and restores charges based on how many he has hit, and when he has enough charges, like Ramatra, Thor enters an empowered state, gaining bonus health and unleashing continuous damage to nearby enemies, transforming into an unstoppable force on the battlefield. Finally, during his ultimate, Thor ascends to the sky, much like Doomfist, and after a while, he slams to the ground, dealing more damage. During his ascension, he deals continuous damage to enemies below him. So heroes like Thor are perfect for a dive comp against enemies out of place to cause disruption and clear a way to victory. And finally, we have Venom. Venom is a chaotic powerhouse, drawing comparisons to Wrecking Ball and Doomfist. Like Wrecking Ball, Venom can swing across the battlefield and slam down to knock enemies back. Both heroes sustain themselves when near enemies or at low health, making them hard to eliminate. Starting off with Venom's ultimate, burrowing underground to deal massive damage when he unleashes parallels Doomfist's Meteor Strike, where both heroes heal based on the damage they deal. Granted, Venom also deals a quad-based attack with his tentacles, resembling Wrecking Ball's quad cannons, making him a menace when face-to-face with the backline. These kinds of heroes thrive in fast-paced, unpredictable fights, so if you like those dive-heavy comps that want to solo the backline and be self-sufficient, I think Venom is the perfect pick for you. From Captain America's heroic leadership to Magneto's evil rampage, these tank similarities in Marvel Rivals and Overwatch showcase incredible innovation. Whether you prefer rallying your team, controlling the battlefield, or diving into chaos, these tanks proves there's a playstyle for everyone. So which tank was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below if you want a video for the supports or the DPS characters in Marvel Rivals. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell for more content coming soon to Marvel Rivals.